Right. With the recent completion of building projects, have those improvements met the needs in the district, or are there still brick and mortar concerns?
With a lot of our construction from the referendum, we were making the schools better, adding new things to the high school, whether it's a pool, the PAC, or the field house. But we also did other construction, such as Amy Bell and Rockfield, where we expanded the schools. In the case of Amy Bell, we expanded it to allow it to be a full three-track school and allow for expansion to be a four-track school in the future. We also have four-track schools at County Line and at MacArthur, where a lot of the development areas are occurring in Germantown, so I think we are well poised for the future.
And now Tracy?
I think in many ways the building projects do meet certainly current needs and to many degrees the potential future needs that the district may encounter with new subdivisions, new students hopefully entering in to the district. There's certainly always some concerns with it as far as the increasing cost of maintenance. Generally speaking, any sort of issues that may pop up where you obviously don't necessarily expect something to either be broken or worn or along those lines. I think from what has been shared in public meetings, we are seeing some of that, but it also kind of comes with the territory. With regards to some of the additional work that was done above and beyond the referendum, that's where kind of some of my concerns come into play. Now, the results of that increased debt borrowing to facilitate some of those, there's good things that come out of there, but there's a trade-off with regards to the financial side of the situation. And I think we're starting to see some of that now with regards to increased costs, increased debt maintenance, and also the decrease in our current fund balance from roughly a handful of years ago till today, from above 10 million down to approximately 3.5 million or so. So those are the types of things as a result from some of the building upgrades that we're starting to need to deal with.
So as my colleague Tom had indicated, the building projects definitely have met our needs, and we are very well poised for the future. And other than routine maintenance, we really don't have anything that would be on the radar. Our building and grounds group has been working on a 10-year maintenance plan. And unlike other districts who tend to go ahead and go out for referendum where they don't plan for the maintenance that takes place on the buildings, we do have a plan. And so things such as the roof maintenance or re-asphalting are done on a rotating basis, and we keep a building project fund going so that we have the money to be able to cover that. Regarding the additional spending that the board had did, which drew down our fund balance, that was done with the intent that we did not want to do any additional tax levy to the taxpayers since we already had the referendum spending. Now, when you look at some of the longer term planning, you also consider what other outstanding debt do you have and when do those debt obligations fall off, that maybe you at that point do some other borrowing where it doesn't have the tax impact to the community, and we are able to then be putting more reserves in our fund balance.
And for the last question, if elected, how do you plan on being accessible to the public, or in the case of people, the two that are already on the board, how have you made yourself accessible? Then you go ahead.
As a board member, our contact information is on the website. We frequently have the constituents who call us and we respond. With COVID, as you can imagine, we were flooded with emails and all sorts of communication, and we respond as we are able. And I think at times people forget that we all work full-time jobs in addition to this commitment. But in terms of response, I would say the entire board is very responsive to the community, and that would be my continued desire. And as we go to PTA meetings or host different board meetings within the school buildings, there is the opportunity to be able to speak with parents. And just a week ago on the catch-all day, I walked through the buildings to see what the utilization was of that day, and took the opportunity to stop and talk with the teachers, because as much as you want to have feedback amongst the community members, you also have to remember that the staff are stakeholders in our community as well, and so being able to receive firsthand feedback from them on areas that we can improve. So it's really being 360 degrees available.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this year, I've probably received dozens, if not hundreds of messages, probably more than all of my previous years on the board combined. If I didn't reply, then one of my colleagues replied, and in all cases, it didn't necessarily need a reply, but if there was one that was needed, if I didn't do it, one of my colleagues certainly stepped in, so we made sure that everything was replied to. From a being available, as was previously mentioned, our emails are on the site. I think our phone numbers are out there as well. And we're also in the process of putting more biographies out on our district website. Because, for example, I have an information technology background. Maybe someone has a technology-related question, and they might feel better asking someone who has an IT background that question. Or if someone has an HR background, and they look and they see that Sarah has an HR background, maybe it's an HR question, they might feel better directing it to someone else. So I think once we have those files out there, it'll certainly give the public even more access than they have today.
Tracy?
As far as accessibility to the public and making myself available, I've already tried to do that over the course of probably the last year and a half, actually. Being a parent, I think it does, in a way, especially parents that have kids in the district, I'm already going to the different sporting events and concerts and those type of things. And generally, I think most everybody on the current board probably does something similar as well, whether it be high school basketball or whatnot. But I think, generally speaking, it's all about being open to communication. And I think not only do board members always have to kind of keep that in mind, and also understand, when someone reaches out, that question is very important to them. And as a board member, we just would need to keep that in mind and try to be as responsive. And I think, at least when I've reached out to our superintendent, for instance, or Bob Soderberg, they've responded back, in my experience, in a reasonable time. And that's keeping that pace up can be difficult, I'm sure. But doing that is at least a big step forward. Going from the administration, the district type of perspective, I think they need to utilize their Facebook page more. They need to, there's 4,000 or either 2,000 or 4,000, I can't remember the number now, that have liked the school district Facebook page. And I know that they've tried to show the good things that have gone on in the Germantown School District more recently. And those positive things that they've shared go crazy. There's a dozen shares, there's 38 likes, there's that interactions. I think that's what people crave.
Now we're just going to open it up to closing statements. You guys will each have 1 minute. And John will hold up the red card.
I'd just like to once again thank everybody for attending. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching online. I'm very happy to be part of this event. Ultimately, I think we all probably do, but we want to make the school district a better place for our children. We want to get them ready for ultimately the real world out there. And as far as me personally, if anybody does have more interest in me, I am on Facebook. I am online at tracypollock.com.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate this afternoon. And again, we really appreciate you being engaged voters. And I encourage you to look at all of our websites. I'm at votesarahlarson.com. And I certainly would be welcome to phone calls and other interactions to engage. And I think everyone needs to remember how important the school community is. And all of us come from different backgrounds and have different things to offer. And so it isn't just our schools that are responsible for educating our children, it's the community. And so be aware, get engaged, and help us ensure that our schools are the best place for our children. Thanks.
Thank you for your time today, everyone that's in person today and watching at home. I think I've served the residents of the Germantown community well over the past several years. We've seen $100 million in investments in our schools. Some of that through referendum, some through community investments, and others through our district fund balance, which thankfully, due to our fiscally conservative management of the fund balance, had grown to the point where we could invest or reinvest that money into the schools. And all of this has led to increased property values in Germantown, even through a pandemic. You've got homes in Germantown that are selling in days, maybe weeks, and in other cases before they even hit the market. Part of the reason for that is because we have good schools. You can find me at votetombarney.com if you have any other questions. Thank you.
That concludes our discussion on the Germantown School Board. I thank you for your participation as well as the participation in the audience and for those at home. So since the